imagine that you live, dine, and work together with the same people for 70 days or more straight with little to no time off. And imagine that this is actually a deeply connecting experience because you have people around you that inspire you, make you feel safe, and are great teammates. Well, our guest today, Meg Clark, is the owner and executive director of Camp Waldemar, an organization that's been around for over 5 generations. Waldemar is recognized as one of America's finest girls' camps and is one of the oldest continuously running camping operations in the state of Texas. She's created an environment where, in spite of some very difficult conditions, they have a company culture that unites people. Meg, welcome to How I Turned the Corner.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to just share my heart, my soul, which is the team that I work with.
Yeah.
So thank you for this opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. I can't believe the environment that you create. I mean, those conditions are hard. So, I mean, can you share a little bit about how do you bring the best out of people in that way? Like, what are some of your things you've done over the years?
Well, thank you. And first, I want to really recognize the people that came before me. So they set that culture. And I'm just the holder in time, the continuation of the vision of Aunt Ora Johnson. She wasn't my aunt, but she started Waldemar 99 years ago. And I think she set that tone of come and be a part of this environment for young women. It's an all-girls camp where you're role modeling the things you want to see in life, taking the initiative, helping each other, being the best person you can be, being kind, just general good human qualities. So then she surrounded herself with an incredible team. So that was in the 1920s. In the 1970s, my family bought Waldemar, and my mom and dad continued that same vision. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say her niece, Doris, took over Waldemar for decades in between. So from that, fast forward, the Elmore family is running Waldemar, and I leave and go start a camp on my own. Well, the thing that I learned right off the bat was how important people were. So I started this camp, and all of a sudden I had no one who knew how to do camp. I was hiring all new people. They may have been a camper at a camp. They might have been a counselor, but they hadn't run camp. Where at Waldemar, I had staff members who'd been there 20, 30, 40 years. So every bit of knowledge was in their head, and they just did what they did without manuals and the how-tos. So I'm thrust into this situation. I've started this new camp, and I quickly learned every person is so valuable.
For sure.
That really started my journey into creating a family and a group of people around me that leaned on each other, supported each other. Our success depended on the ability to work so tightly together. And we really became, we just became family. After that, I ran Lone Hollow for 14 years and then was given the opportunity to come back to Waldemar, my family's camp, and join these families that have been apart for so long. You know, some of the people that I work with birthed their babies here. Their babies grew up, and now they're working at Waldemar. So I have a real mission to really understand what drives them. Why do they stay here? What can I do to improve their experience? So through Vistage, where I learned so many things about just human needs, we all want to be appreciated. We all want to be recognized. We all want to do what we do really well and not do what we don't do well. I call it the black bean. You know, 90% of your job can be doing things that you do well, and 10% can be the black bean, the thing that you don't do very well. And that's manageable. But if I haven't dug in and really asked the right questions, someone may have a balance that is not sustainable. An example, today we had a family meal, a family lunch. We do it once a month. The chef prepares different menu, different items that we want to test in the summer.
That's
And
fun.
so we were having two desserts. We were having a souffle, a chocolate souffle, and a cake. The baker, someone around the table, told the story that Paco, who started out on the maintenance team, had never worked in the kitchen, and he came to work in the kitchen one summer and fell in love with baking. Now he loves to bake, and so he's created Paco's cake. It's famous. The girls love it. I mean, we have to serve Paco's chocolate cake every summer. But it was taking a moment to know that he would prefer to learn a skill that he really has a passion for versus being plugged into a role that we needed filled, maintenance, but maybe that wasn't his passion. So, I feel like we go along in our business, and we all do this, and we've got these needs, and we're going to hire the very best person for that. But every once in a while, we need to just stop and check in. You've done this job for 5 years, 10 years. Is this fulfilling you? Right. Or is there something else in this landscape of work that you would do well and would thrive and succeed in that we should consider you for? So just having those conversations.
That's so important. It's interesting that you bring this up because my colleague John and I were just talking about this today, believe it or not, in our one-on-one we had this morning, because it feels like some leaders will see people on their team as just a body to fill a role, thinking that just because they're really good in this one area, they're going to be great anywhere. Mm-hmm. And that's just such an inaccurate view. Mm-hmm. I believe we are all hardwired or naturally wired to do some things and not other things. Yeah. And if you just throw someone in a role that they're maybe not wired for, they're going to be miserable. I mean, just take it yourself, right? Like if you were thrown into a job that you're not wired for at all, I think how miserable Monday morning would be. Yeah. And yet we do that, not you and I, but a lot of leaders will do that. And I think people are also afraid to have those conversations that you just brought up around how are you feeling? Are you fulfilled? I think sometimes leaders are afraid that what the answer might be when really there's an amazing opportunity, right? Yeah. I love that you did that.
Somewhere along the line, I shifted my perspective on critical conversations. So we've all done it, but you take someone who does such a great job in one role, and then you promote them, expecting it to be an absolute huge success. A lot of times it is. Sometimes it's not. And being able to have a really honest conversation about what you're seeing in a way, I think you can have it with your staff when you really care about them, because they know you're having that conversation from a place of, I care for you. And maybe you're not thriving in this role that we thought would be a great fit. How do you feel about it? And just that transparency of, here's what I'm seeing. Or is this really the fit we thought it would be? And being open to shifting and not being so set in, this is the role, and I moved you into this role. Now we've got to keep it, or it's failure. Maybe you're going to do part management, but what you really are great at is analysis, and we didn't know that. So let's shift it around. And it's being more engaged in people's talents and really seeing them versus the job title, the tasks that need to be filled by those jobs, and making someone fit into that box. I think that flexibility and adaptability is what you said earlier. We're going to have to be really more adaptable as employers
I
moving
totally
forward.
agree. I totally
Mhm.
agree. Yeah, let's actually kind of transition into that a little bit because we were talking before we started recording about how, my perspective that I believe we're on the front lines of a people revolution and that people are no longer going to tolerate working for companies that aren't flexible and adaptive, like you just said. And you had said in the beginning, like that was one of the good things that came out of COVID is from your perspective, you felt like we had to shift and we had to adapt. Can you just share a little bit more about what you said at the beginning before we started recording?
Well, let me
I'm
think.
putting you on the spot. It's hard to
Yeah,
repeat the conversation, isn't it?
right, right. Well, I do think that people now recognize I can work in a job, I can travel this long distance, this long commute, be away from my children, and get paid X amount. Or I can be creative and find a job from home, be around my children, and I'd rather do that. At the end of the day, we're going to need a little bit of both. So we as employers are going to have to get more adaptable. We're going to have to really know our team and know what their needs are and meet them halfway. I just think that really your team does deserve more. They want a life that fills them up. And so if you can create that culture in the work setting where they're excited to be at work, like they want to come in because this is where ideas get tossed around and they're praised in real time and they're, looking at people in the eye and engaging. I'm going to choose that over working at my house by myself if the culture is that inspiring. So I'm going to recognize I'm competing with home space. So I'm going to make it really fabulous at work.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, we're in the people business, so we want to see each other, and we're a summer camp. We can't remote work with counselors. They have to be here with the kids. But just looking at the environment, I think we really have to step up our game and make sure that the setting, the work environment, is that friendly and inspiring.
Right. That's a great point because I think that's another thing. We haven't discussed this much on the podcast, but there is this riff right now in the world where you've got the leaders who are insistent on being in person
Mhm.
because usually I find it's because of head trash that they have,
Mhm.
that they actually have issues with trust and they
Mhm.
don't think they can trust their employees unless they see them, which is totally ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they're forcing these policies onto people around working in office without the logic behind it. Like, here's the why. And then even worse, the environment is terrible. And it's
Mhm.
like you just said, like, why do you want to go? Why would you take a long commute, take, extra time to get ready?
Mhm.
You have to arrange life at home to be taken care of, whether that's pets or kids or just whatever, to go then into an environment where you're suffering,
Right.
right?
Right.
Nobody wants to do that. And so I think what you just said needs to really be highlighted. Like if you're going to be in person, make it a great environment.
Mhm. One that you're dying to get to. Like I want to see my friends. They're my coworkers, but they're my friends as well. Encouraging. This is where you go to get fed.
Right.
Being recognized for what you're doing and the work needs to be important. I think back to that major shift occurring that you've touched on. I think people want to feel that their work has an impact
Mhm.
on the world, on humanity. And every work does. It just has to be seen in that way. So, even if you're making a part to a specialized piece of equipment, understanding the why and who that's benefiting, really building the story to your employees, that's where the juice is. Just making sure that they feel the importance of their everyday work.
Mhm. Yeah, I say that if there is a job in your company that doesn't have meaning to it, then don't have it.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Every job should have meaning. Now, sometimes we
Mhm.
have to connect the dots for
Mhm.
why a job
Mhm.
has meaning because someone may not have the context that we do. And I think that's another big part of being a leader is kind of connecting those dots
Yeah.
and making sure there's that clarity there. But
Mhm.
if there's a job on your team that isn't meaningful, then why in the world would you even have it?
Right.
What a waste of money.
Exactly. I was hiking with this brilliant woman the other day, and she drew that connection. She was talking with a guy who was creating an ad for a sports car, and the ad was saying, here is the value of driving this fancy car and all the benefits and all of that. And she said, look, you need to build that ad for the employees making that car. Let them know the value of what they're creating and what it's building for the person who buys the car. Making sure that your staff really knows the importance of their work. So yes, just repeating what you said. The why is so
Mhm.
important.
Yeah, I agree. Well, so now tell me a little bit more about then, like we all struggle as leaders a little bit. Do you mind sharing, some of your struggles, some of the things that because we all do. I mean, you probably can't see the
Yeah.
sign behind me, but it says I'm not the leader I need to be a year from now, but I will
Mhm.
grow to become that person.
Yeah.
What are some of your areas that right now you think would be helpful for you?
Um, Going right back to those critical conversations, sometimes I really struggle to have them with people that I need to have them um, because I'm so close to them or their family. So in my business, you know, I have aunts and cousins and my mother and really dear friends. So I have to really reconcile that I'm doing them a favor and myself by being honest, by really sitting down on the couch with them and saying, "Hey, this is impacting me and let me share." And it's hard and it's making those relationships more real. So I have to do a lot of mental work to get myself prepared for the conversations that are really challenging. So that's a challenge. Um, I think making decisions about what is our priority, what is the next steps towards our vision, and making sure that I am not the only one with the vision, that it is shared.
Mm,
Because for me to get where I want to go, my team has to join me.
right.
And if I force something, then I'm missing the connection with my team. I'm missing the opportunity to hear the reasons why it's good or it's not thoroughly thought through. So I'm a visionary, so I have a lot of ideas, and taking the time to really make sure everyone else is on board and I've really listened to them is something I struggle with and I must do. So I'm learning to be better
Hmm.
about that.
Oh, that's great, man. That's a really good one. Um, because I think you and I are similar in that way. I'm a visionary as well, and I have so many ideas. And
Mhm.
we've had to go through a really intentional change management process and class and get us all like we've all gone through like we did a book club on this book called Change that really helped kind of walk through how you do a really good job with change
Mhm.
management. And I'm after following that as a leader too, I've realized now over the years like where I've missed in the past. And some of the points that were brought up in the book that were really helpful for me were around like connecting with their heart and
Yeah.
their mind, talking about the reasons why and like the feeling with it, as well as the facts. And then also really celebrating really small wins with the people on the team that were really bought in already automatically.
Yeah.
So anyway, I can share the title of the book with you,
Oh, I
and
love
I
that.
don't have it right here in front of me, but
Mhm.
it was really helpful for kind of thinking through some of that with when we're such visionaries. And for us,
Right.
it's like I see exactly why this is so important, and you're all like,
Yeah.
but we're back here.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, and that is the piece, slowing down long enough to really know why you're making the change is everyone on board? Have you communicated it clearly? Is that change necessary even? Because as visionaries, because we have all those ideas, are they all valid? So
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
good for you.
Yeah, that's great. And
Yeah.
so with those difficult conversations too, I can just imagine. I mean, can imagine how hard they are when they're family members.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Mm-hmm.
so much deeper than just a colleague that you might
Yeah.
disagree with on a particular task or whatever. I mean, you have a
Mm-hmm.
long history with folks. That
Yeah.
is challenging
Yeah.
and also really beautiful.
And also really beautiful. So my mother's 86 as of today,
Oh.
and she comes in every day to the office, and to make sure that we're having both a personal relationship and a work relationship, and we don't blend them like so she and I will go and have dinner and talk about everything else but work. So to manage that relationship, but it's brought an ability to have transparency and communication at a deeper level than we may have had just being mother daughter. So I'm really grateful for the path that we've taken. It's been
Hmm.
beautiful.
That's great. So,
Yeah.
well, so tell us, like, what are some of what's an ideal employee look like for you? Like, what are the
Mm.
do they have?
I really believe someone's enthusiasm and willingness to be a part of the vision, the team, the culture. We can train a lot of things. It's really the attitude. So a great employee just has a great attitude. Everything else will come. They
Mm.
might need to have some skill set, but a great attitude's the number one thing.
Oh, that's great. And so tell us then, who are you looking for now? Like, what kinds of hires are you, or I'm sure you're targeting counselors every summer, right?
Right. Yes,
Yeah.
we do. That starts really in September and doesn't end till the end of the summer. And so, yes, we hire about 150 just counselors that are inspiring, that are positive, great role models, live with integrity, and just are good humans. Love children, love the out of doors. So that's our biggest group of people that we hire, and then our main team is filled. We're doing well. We've got a great full-time staff.
That's great.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, hopefully you'll get those great counselors for this upcoming summer. So, sounds like a wonderful camp that you run. Really
Thank
exciting.
you. Thank you, Kendra. I
Well, thank
appreciate
you for joining me today on
it.
How I Turned the Corner.
Really nice to meet you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yes, you bet.